Hey buds, we gotta talk. I'm making this video to make an official announcement. I want to cover a few things, including but not limiting to the current state of the game PUBG, my feelings on it, my behavior on stream, the stream itself, and the direction I want to go moving forward. I have my notes here in front of me so I don't get lost, so bear with me. I'm going to attempt to do this in one take, no edits. Feel free to let me know what you think. But the truth is, I'm not making this video for any purpose other than to get my opinion out there on these topics so I don't have to keep repeating myself on stream all the time. I don't want to take away from the viewer experience any longer. So to all the Bobberazzi and buds out there, this is for you. And to all the haters out there, fuck you. I don't give a fuck about you. PUBG's been out for 8 years. It's changed hands since its inception, and it's evolved over time. Let's cover some of the things that have changed since Krafton's taken over, and this is by no means in any particular order. Map selection removed from NA and other regions. Bots have been added to the game. The maps Tago, Destin, Rondo, the Vikendi remaster, Sanhok remaster, Sanhok revert with destructible terrain, and all the small maps like Karakin, Paramo, and Haven. SMGs have been buffed tremendously by the likes of limb damage multiplier, speed while running and carrying them, hipfire accuracy, and they're increased by about 50%. The Dragunov DMRs added with a one-shot kill mechanic on level 2 helmets. Panzers have been added to the game. The thermal scope was added to the game and then later removed. Bears added to the game, but only on Vikendi for now. Multi-crate drops from planes introduced on Tago and has since been expanded to Vikendi. The DBS shotgun, FAMAS, P90 added to the crate. The M249 and the AUG have been removed. The M249 was significantly nerfed, while the AUG still remains a meta weapon. The Revive has been added to big maps, and later all maps. The blue chip transmitter was added, allowing to revive your teammates from anywhere in the map without the use of a tower, but this has since been removed. The revive consists of going to a tower, bringing back your teammates, who will then fly in on a plane towards the center of the existing circle with no gear, and no guarantee that teammates will be nearby. The revives are not instant. There's a 2-minute and 30-second window, and when that timer's up, that's when anyone who's been recalled will fly back in. Self revives were added to the game, and they've since been removed on all versions of the game except for solos. Critical response kits were added to the game. They exist, I believe, only on Paramo and Vikendi. Utilities were added to the game, such as EMT gear, tactical pack, the armor repair, drones, inflatable boats, bicycles, folded shields, and more. And all of these items take up places in the loot pool, reducing chances of finding armor and weapons or heals. The jammer pack was added to the game to allow players to not take damage while outside the zone. And blue zone grenades were added to allow players to create their own blue zones within the map. These are all major items. The list can go on and on, okay? But what I want to talk about right now is the current state of the game and my opinion on how all of these changes have impacted the game. And I just want to reiterate that this is my opinion. I repeat, this is my opinion. So, map selection being removed from the regions can be seen as both good and bad. It's temporarily good as it combines all the players into one queue, which shortens the time and makes the waiting less. This method is effective if the maps in the rotation are what the specific region desires. But this is not what's been happening. I have never seen a poll, a survey, or anything asking NA on which maps we prefer. Also, the map rotations always favor the maps that Krafton has created. leaving the player base yearning for Erangel and Miramar 24/7 because we never get it. The claim that these maps have even percentages is a joke, as I've gotten maps like Vikendi or Tego 6 times in a row, but never Erangel. So this is slightly more likely than rolling a dice on the same number 6 times in a row. Okay, I mean, the math is, if there's 5 maps in queue, it's 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5, which is 0.0064%. Okay, 0.0064%. That's the odds of that happening. Okay, and that's happened to me multiple times. So I've never had it happen with Erangel, though, so that's my point, right? So this is only on maps that Crafton has created. So there are 2 possibilities here. Either A, I am insanely unlucky, to the point where I may be one of the most unlucky people on the planet. Or B, the percentages aren't really what Crafton says they are, and it's actually skewed towards the Crafton created maps. Now here's the thing. I know that I'm not unique, that I'm not special, okay? So this happens to more people than just me. All right? So I'm going with option B. Now, if map selection was eliminated, only the desired if map selection was eliminated, only the desired maps would be played. Sorry, let me reiterate. If map selection was enabled, not eliminated, only the desired maps would be played. All right. So my thought is remove the other maps if they aren't that popular. Okay. I believe that there's a fair share of people who have quit the game because they could no longer select the maps that they want to play, and they got fed up with playing map roulette. Bots being added to the game is an all-around bad decision. All right. What started out as Terminator bots, which at the time I dubbed Shrouds because he was so good at the time, have been turned into a joke that typically ruin everyone's games. So you might ask, how do bots ruin the games? Well, bots do not act like normal players do, and they interfere with the natural flow of the game. Bots seem to appear out of nowhere because they're in places that no person would be, and either A, blow your cover by shooting you or you having to shoot back, or B, force you into a position to avoid the bot that you normally wouldn't go to avoid blowing your cover, or C, you die from a real player baiting the bot while you're killing it. So Crafton has even gone to the extent that they're trying to make bots appear more human-like and change their names to give people the impression that they're not really bots, giving people a false sense that the game is full when really it's 50% or more bots. What do I mean by that? Basically, in the lobby, you'll notice they no longer show the player count at the top of the screen. They just say waiting for players to join, and then the timer starts. So they're gaslighting everyone into thinking that the server's full. I believe that many people quit the game because of the bots. Who wants to play against bots or have their games ruined by them? PUBG would be better off having the starting zones adjusted in size to fit the amount of players playing. A dynamic circle, to be more precise. If only 50 players join a game, the game may start in phase 1 or like a much smaller circle. But you don't have to worry about bots. All right. I think the idea of adding maps to PUBG initially sounded like a great idea. But not all great ideas end up being great. 8 years later, and the 2 original maps are the best. Erangel and Miramar. No maps even come close. Now, I know that's an opinion, right? There's some players out there who like some of the newer maps more than them. Of course, there's always going to be those, the outliers. And that's okay for people who have that opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm of the belief that, just as I mentioned earlier regarding forcing of other maps onto players through the rotation, that many people have quit the game because they cannot play the maps that they want. And Krafton's forcing these less desired maps on the players, and most people end up just going to play something else with their time. Why bother playing a game that forces you to play their way instead of the way that you want to? The conversation of SMGs, it's frequently brought up in the stream, okay? And some see people, or some see SMGs as an equalizer, and others see them as overpowered monstrosities that reward poor aim. I bet you can guess which side of the fence I'm on regarding that. A common theme within PUBG is great idea, poor implementation. The reason why PUBG is buffing SMGs is because they want an avenue for new players to be able to combat the veterans who have mastered the gunplay to try and regain a casual player base. This is a great idea, all right? Implemented insanely poor. Why? All FPS games that are successful are based on competition, or what some may call having skills. What are these skills in FPS games? Headshots. Headshots are what people consider skills. They have and always will be the pinnacle of FPS aiming. The more headshots you can land, the more kills you will obtain, the better you will do. Not with PUBG SMGs, though. PUBG's introduced limb damage multiplier, where SMGs will do more damage to legs and arms than even center mass, where the damage is just slightly less than headshots. But I mean, there's much more surface to hit, right? So if you're bad aim, you can land more of those shots. So for any other gun in the game, if you shoot a limb, you'll do less damage than center mass and much less than a headshot. What does this do? This rewards poor aim and puts new players in a crutch position where they feel they can never advance to ARs because they get so many kills with the SMGs due to being rewarded for their circular spray patterns. Couple this issue with hipfire aim accuracy increase, where players can fully sprint and jump and hipfire with better accuracy to blow off all your limbs. Where's the skill in that? I may not be good at the game, okay? But I can understand the concept of skills. So to fix the problem, PUBG needs to remove hipfire accuracy. They need to remove limb damage multiplier. But increase the damage close range by rewarding headshots. Have the SMG damage fall off mid-range to avoid abuse outside of close quarter combat. Now, what's this going to do? Well, at least when you get killed by someone using an SMG, you know that they at least probably hit headshots. And then you don't feel cheesed by it. Now, the Dragunov was also added to the game as an equalizer weapon for new players trying to get into it. DMRs already reign supreme when it comes to players playing sweaty. So why add one with bolt action power? The issue does not lie in the fact that the gun is strong and it hits hard. In fact, I'd be totally okay with it if it was the strongest DMR in the game regarding damage per bullet. The issue is that it will one-shot a player full health with a level 2 helmet if you're within the range. So what does that mean? It means it's going to reward players who can't land first shot headshots or spam areas where another player might try to counter peek and get lucky and end up with a kill. It doesn't feel rewarding, and it certainly feels like cheese on the receiving end. Now, if PUBG were to remove the one-shot headshot from this gun, I'd be totally okay with it. Now, Panzers are self-explanatory. A one-shot low skill, overpowered weapon in the game that can change the dynamic of anything anyone is working towards at a moment's notice. Most of the time before anyone can even identify that the opposition has it. It can single-handedly explode a car full of players trying to make a play, ruin a drop because of RNG, and it's a meme weapon. This is not an item that is used to win an endgame, but more of a zero counterplay offensive based on a situational luck. This situational luck is either met with exhilaration when you're the one picking it up, or fury when you're on the receiving end. It also speaks volumes when this is one of the items most requested to be removed from the esports scene. The thermal scope was added, and it was so insanely overpowered and took forever to be removed. Whoever got their hands on one basically won the game. Or you need to have one in return to even stand a chance to counter it. Removing the thermal scope is a good thing, but you can't really credit Crafton for the removal of it when it somehow made it into the game in the first place. In addition to thermal scopes, bears were added to Vikendi. We don't need to dive into the details on this. Bears are just as bad, if not worse, than the bots. Multi-crate drops began on Tego, and they're carried over to the Vikendi remaster. Initially, this seemed like a cool idea, as it was announced that multiple crates would drop. Once again, this is a great idea with poor implementation. Why would enough crates that can kit out a full squad drop in one spot? If the objective is to get more people crates, make it so that the chances of a double drop go up, or maybe even introduce a triple drop. Having so much loot in one area does not mean that more people get the crates. It just means more people die trying to get them, or one squad gets completely kitted out and runs the table that game. Crate gear used to have to be earned by fighting over one crate at a time. Now you can just go to a pile of them, and your entire team can have the best loot in the game. When Revive was announced, the entire community was excited about it. Well, not all. The super diehard sweats didn't like it, but everyone else did. Why is Revive good? Revive is good because games need to adapt with the times. People work all day long and they get on to play in the evenings with their friends. They want to hang out and have fun. Not everyone enjoys a super hardcore game, especially one of the Battle Royale variety. That does not mean that I think RNG is a good thing. I think people want a competitive game. Every Battle Royale has a revive, and that is by design. When a team wins a fight, or you're genius enough to be able to retrieve your teammate's chip to revive them, you get a second chance and you can bring your friends back to play without leaving or having to wait around. This is all a step in the right direction and a positive. But once again, we get back to the great idea, poor implementation side of things. PUBG has taken the worst aspects of Revive from all other BRs and combined them into one. The first thing you need to do in order to revive your teammate is obtain their blue chip. Then you take it to a revive tower. After using the tower with a 10-second charge, your teammate's revived. But not instantly. Depending on the 2-minute and 30-second window, they could be back in 1 second, all the way up to 2.5 minutes. The other BR that uses revive towers is Apex Legends. The big difference is that in Apex, teammates come back instantly, and they arrive directly over top the revive tower that was used. And also, people can't steal enemy chips in that game, right? And run off with them and destroy them in cars. This is an effective method, the revive in Apex, coming back instantly because a player can land with their teammates, who can then provide support as they re-enter with no gear at all. In PUBG, the revive plane flies over the map to the center of the existing circle. So there's a chance that the plane flies over your team, but most of the time, they're nowhere nearby. This is a problem with a punishing game like PUBG, because most players will not survive and they'll just die instantly again. The game revolves around your team trying to bring you back now. Okay, so instead of the main objective of winning, trying to strategize and find a way to win, your whole game is flipped upside down and your whole agenda is to try to find your friend and bring him back. Could they just abandon their friend for the sake of positioning and trying to win? Sure. But let's not forget, this is a video game. We're talking about casual players who enjoy having fun amongst friends, and time is more well spent when everyone's having fun. Not one guy sitting there watching while everyone else plays. Super People has the best revive of any video game, using defibrillators over top fallen teammates to bring them back with a certain time frame. The Super People, the player would then revive and have all the items left on their body. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Enemies that eliminated them can go up to their body and take anything that they want. All the remaining items is what you would revive with. Okay? So sometimes you'd be fully kitted because your team wiped the other team and you'd revive. Other times you'd be left with scraps. But the point is that you're with your team. So this allows teams to get right back into the action and focus the attention on strategy and shooting their guns. The fun part of the game. Many players in PUBG think that revive takes away from the hardcore element that the game has to offer. And I would argue that having a revive makes it even more difficult because it forces players to focus on eliminating a team entirely to ensure victory. Revive also reduces RNG, which I feel is a key component to competition and ensuring longevity of a game. The tactical gear that's been added to PUBG is once again great idea, poor implementation. Why is this? The idea of having the types of tactical gear that PUBG offers is a fun way to spice up the game. I would agree with that. The problem is that these items take up positions in the loot pool. A place where armor or a weapon can spawn now has the chance to spawn one of these other items. So instead of finding that vest or a gun on the drop, you get inflatable boat and your enemy can just make quick work of you. There are many ways, I'm sure, to solve this problem. One of them being that these type of items can have their own dedicated spawn locations. For example, add bike racks to the side of buildings to loot bicycles. Have crates in specific locations along the water that have inflatable boats in them. And have lootable chests within houses for items like folded shields and tactical sacks. This will allow players who want to use them, because they're fun items, it'll allow them to have the ability to do so, while also not taking away from the loot pool when you're dropping in and trying to find things to simply survive and win the game. Jammer packs being added to the game was a horrible decision, in my opinion. As players begin to learn the game, they understand it's dynamic and they play within those confines. People have learned to be able to survive in the blue over time, me being no exception. I got the name Blue Zone Bob for crying out loud. That doesn't mean that it's right or okay. I'm simply playing the same game that everyone else is, so I'm going to utilize what's available to me. People will adapt to situations accordingly. And PUBG could have taken one of two directions. One, make the zone more difficult, so players will avoid being outside in the blue at all costs. Or two, Make it more sustainable to play outside longer. They chose the latter. Why is this a bad thing? Well, it's a bad thing because players can now be outside the zone all the way until phase 6 most of the time, making it difficult for any strategy at all. When someone's playing inside the zone, and there's always that chance that someone's outside, lurking behind you in the zone, there's no real way to formulate a perfect strategy to win. It is of my opinion that Jammer Pack should be removed, or just give a brief second of relief from the zone. The zone should be reworked to move slower than you can run. So cars will be ideal for things like quick rotations or capturing compounds more efficiently when the zone shifts, or attacking a compound after you get a knock. But they shouldn't be necessary. All right? So not only will the zone move slower than you can run, but now the zone would be constantly moving in. Instead of having all those 4.5 minutes, 3 minutes until the next zone starts, it's just going to be constantly moving in at that slow pace. All right. But if someone enters into the blue zone, they should die right away. It should be like a phase 7 or phase 8 blue zone chunk. Just boom, 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 boom. And the Jammer Pack can prevent that for a certain amount of seconds because you can outrun the zone, so you should be easily able to escape it. And yeah, so I feel that people are great at adaptation. Human beings are. It would only take one time dying to the blue zone to recognize, wow, I need to move immediately once the blue is here. And if the blue zone moves slower than you can run, it's safe to say that at that moment, you just have to start immediately running to get to the zone. And what is this going to do? This would encourage better early game planning, less passive play, and it would offer more exciting mid to end game. So, yeah, many of these items that we're talking about, by the way, they've all been added to the game with little to no feedback. The feedback that was given, it's either been ignored or it was favored in different regions that are more popular. All right. So if we feel in North America that something is bad, but they like it over in the Asian region, it's implemented. It doesn't matter. And with that being said, PUBG has an issue with region neglect due to lack of population. We do not get skins that appeal to us or changes to the game unless it aligns with Asia. Okay, and it therefore creates a negative feedback loop as more people quit, dwindling our voice even more. Each decision made drives more players away from the Western region, and it will continue to until the game is completely dead. Some people say PUBG's player numbers haven't been this high since the early of the game, since the early days, right? This may be true as a whole, but Asia makes up almost 93% of the population of the game. Think about that. I'm going to explain it later. Let's talk about why this is. China has very strict has very strict regulations regarding which video games are allowed. People in China cannot see blood, fire, death, and more. So this is why there's a Korean mode for PUBG that removes all of this. All right? All of the pros and sweaties use this version because bodies disappear. You don't mistakenly shoot one or mistake it for a prone player. That's beside the point, but why does this mode matter? Well, all the other BRs are banned in China. Fortnite, banned. The restricted version was not received well, and it was shut down. Call of Duty, banned. The restricted version's been avoided, and the only way people in China can play is via VPN. Apex Legends, banned. So the only real viable option for people in China to play a battle royale is PUBG. So this is the reason why the game is so popular. There's no competition. Anyone who believes, okay, I'm just going to say this. Anyone who believes that the Steam numbers as being a realistic figure for the Western region is probably a believer in the flat earth theory. Okay? And I'm going to tell you why. A more accurate way to check the Steam charts would be to look at the lowest population point each day. I'm going to use Eastern Standard Time as a reference. Beijing time zone is 12 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So 8 p.m. prime time Eastern is 8 a.m. China. Most people are just waking up. This happens to be when PUBG numbers are at their very lowest. It shows around 80,000 active players at this time. PUBG's record high PC revenue earned in 2024 of $649 million is split by the following regions and percentages. 92.5% Asia, 7.5% EU, NA, and South America combined. Revenue split, although not entirely accurate of a player base, as some people just don't buy skins, is usually a good reflection of the people playing the game. This is alarming, okay? Because for the longest time, it was determined that the EU population had more than double the players of North America. And South America has even more players than North America. This is the reason why when they did that server merge, it was so, like, it wasn't received well at all. Because there were more players in South America and they were being forced to play in North America and horrible ping to satisfy people in North America, maybe because they spend more money. I don't know. So realistically, North America may actually only have 1 to 2% of the overall population now. Why does this matter? Well, let's crunch some numbers. Let's use the number we pulled from the PUBG Steam charts in the dip, which is 8 p.m. Eastern time. 80,000 people. Being generous, okay? Because the number is probably significantly less. Let's say that 50% of those players are in NA since it's prime time. Although realistically, it's probably around 20%. As 80%, as there's probably still players in Asia sleeping still, okay? So, you know, we pulled that 1% figure, but there's probably still people playing over in Asia, but the majority of them are sleeping, okay? There's probably still people playing in EU and whatnot. We're just going to say 20%. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm going back to my notes. It's realistically more about 20%. So we're using 50% though, okay? So we're being generous, okay? 50% of the 80,000 players is 40,000. So it's also a known statistic that PUBG is about 80% TPP and only about 20% play FPP. This is because PUBG began as a TPP game. PUBG pushes TPP when people first install the game. That's the mode that's highlighted, not FPP. And it's typically considered a more casual mode. So, well, we're going to take 20%, okay, for the FPP version of that 40,000 for FPP. That's 8,000 gamers during NA prime time. These 8,000 players are now divided up into ranked versus non-ranked, then split up again, solos, duos, squads, and each of those lobbies are supposed to have 100 people, okay? Mind you, this is during prime time, like when the game is supposed to be the most active in NA. So it's no wonder that there are so many bots filling the lobbies, that Krafton's trying to disguise the bots as players, and that they hide the lobby number to gaslight us into thinking that they're all real players. The Western region is just insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Even if every single person who plays the game in the Western region were to buy skins, it wouldn't even scratch the surface compared to the players over in Asia. Our opinion does not matter. This is the market that drives the game, okay? Where all the Western region's voices are ignored. So, the lack of players and purchasing power has led to decision making that has and will continue to drive away players in the Western region. Nothing will change until somehow there is a massive influx of players in our region that can help give us a voice. This is where PUBG 2 comes in. If PUBG 2 is done right, it could bring in a tremendous amount of players and revive the game. The issue that I have is, if the game is the PUBG that we currently have, but reskinned with better graphics, we're going to have the same result that we have right now. Putting a lipstick on a pig doesn't change the fact that it's a pig. The reason people don't play this game anymore are for the reasons mentioned above or previous, right? We previously mentioned all of that. Now, it may not be one specific thing, okay, that has caused people to leave the game, but all of them combined over time has created this problem. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Each of the changes that have been made to this game have not been game breaking, right? It's just, they either have dumbed down the game or added yet another element of RNG to an already difficult game, frustrating the masses, and over time they all quit. Some might say, well, Bob, every game gets old and people end up moving on to other games. Tell that to Counter-Strike, okay? Which is the #1 played FPS for over 20 years. It has the #1 esports scene and continues to reach new heights with millions of people playing and a massive casual player base. So what happened? PUBG used to be a game where ridiculous things happened. There were epic gunfights, massive showdowns, bugs, and laughs that had to be had amongst friends. When the game first came out, people struggled to find loot because there were clothes on the ground. Cars would explode with no delay timer to allow players to exit the vehicle. There were bugs that would send you flying into the abyss and die randomly. How was any of this fun? It was casual. The bugs were ridiculous, and it was a cool way to pass some time with friends after a day of work. And I remember this because I was still working at my aerospace sales job at the time. PUBG was captivating in a way no other game was. Every game was different, and the gunplay felt so good. Engagements with players were very simple. There's lots of running around in the open, shooting from cover. When you eliminated your opponent or you got killed, it just kind of just felt like you either won or they outgunned you. But the game has evolved quite a bit from those days. With PUBG's big push to make the game into an esport, came lots of changes to how people play the game. Fast forward 8 years, and you see everyone hiding unless it's to third party. Non-stop wiggling all over the place, you know? And people even double binding, crouch and hold, like your crouch on hold instead of toggle, and then to be able to do this wiggle crouch move, You got reload animation canceling, people breaking their fingers to do this crouching slide move while you're running, carrying 60 rounds of extra ammunition just so you can carry loads of grenades to utility spam your opponents. And everyone that's left has played the game so long that the average player's shooting skills are getting pretty high. They're pretty good. Right? Not many people miss shots anymore. You combine this with the other elements mentioned earlier in this video, such as limb damage multiplier and SMGs, Panzers, and one-shot DMR Dragunovs. It's no wonder that casual players don't want to either come back to PUBG or try it for the first time. The game is brutal. It's full of sweats and based off more RNG than any other game. Yep, I said it. This game is based on luck. So, before I get to this next segment, I want to preface it by saying that I know and I understand this game is a battle royale, and that RNG is a component of these types of games. I understand that it keeps everything fresh, that every game is a new experience, and I embrace that conceptually and how it contributes to the longevity of most BRs. But there are also limits, especially if you're looking to create a competitive market or an environment that all players can feel progression. So, how's this game based on luck, Bob? Look at my recoil control. Look at my rotations. Look at all these skills that I have. From the moment everyone enters the game, RNG is involved. Okay? In NA, EU, and South America, basically any region that isn't Asia, there are map rotations. So even the map you receive is RNG. Let's break the game down into two main components to discuss the randomness. Early game and mid to the end game. In the early game, the plane path is random. When you leave the plane, there may or may not be other players dropping with you. That's random. When you land on the ground, you may land on an inflatable boat and your opponent lands on a Panzer. That's random. You may never find a helmet or heals. That's random. You may get the first zone, or you may have to travel a few kilometers. That's random. You may or may not find a car. That's random too. All of this is in the beginning of the game. And it's normal for a battle royale experience, in my opinion, with the exception of the loot. Okay. So obviously Panzers should be removed, but the tactical gear, in my opinion, should have designated spawn points instead of taking up the loot pool. You know, we covered that already. When you drop, you should be able to find a gun, whatever it is. It could be a wide variety of guns, but you should be able to find a gun, some sort of armor, and basic meds. Like, the reason you sometimes don't find what you need is not necessarily bad luck all the time, but poor design. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So when you enter a building and you find folded shield, inflatable boat, mortar, vehicle camo, then you die to someone that found a gun, that's frustrating. Those items should have designated areas to remove the RNG from the loot pool. All right? If you don't find a car or players decide to shoot out all of your tires going into the zone, it shouldn't be the end of the game for you. Because remember the zone we talked about earlier? That would instantly kill you, but it moves slower than you can run? You just start running, man. You just start running. And you'd make it there. Okay? So the zone shifting may be random, but you could always make it there if you try. That's the point. So the mid to end game typically consists of people posted up in all the buildings, hoping the zone shifts and favors them. And others who were less fortunate to take a car or prefer to play on the edge, they're just hanging out at the edge of the zone. The best strategy in the game at this point is to take buildings at the center of the zone. Because even if it shifts the furthest away from you, more than likely you'll still be in it. There is no real strategy to guarantee success, as the zone is random. What if I told you there was a way towards that there's a way that towards the end of the game you could change that dynamic, where as a solo or a team you could strategize and formulate a plan to actively pursue the chicken dinner and see the finish line, reveal the final circle before phase 5. Now, phase 5, 6, 7, and 8, all right, they're still going to have random zone spots in that area. You won't know where the zone's going to shift to from there, all right? But you'll see where the game's going to end, all right? So you can play it in however you want. Now, you might be thinking, this is stupid. That takes away the fun of Battle Royale because half of it's not knowing. Everyone will do the same thing and they're just going to win. Well, I hate to break it to you, but not everyone will win. As a matter of fact, only one player or one team will win. All right? The idea is this, that it will add an element of strategy to winning. Since everyone knows where the game's going to end, players can either try to take the center, they can work the nearby compounds and prepare for how they want to take over in the end zone, or try to come up with some other plan on how they want to win. You know, maybe at first, the meta would be to dive into the center compound and all pile in and try to take it and play King of the Hill. But that might shift to people saying, wow, every time I do that, we just get into a big brawl and I die. So I'm going to wait till that's over. Well, more people are going to do that. And then that's how you get a meta shift. Okay. Either way, players are going to adapt and find new ways to overcome the odds. The reality is this: getting screwed by the zone will never be a thing again. Because if you know where the final zone is and you get screwed by the zone, well, it was just poor strategy, right? It wasn't RNG at that point because you knew where it was. You knew where you had to be, all right? So if you died to the blue at that point, it's on you. So why do I think something like this is needed? Well, people enjoy competition. And when I say competition, I don't mean trying to be the best in the whole world. I mean basic competition. You're out in the driveway with some buddies shooting hoops. That's competition amongst friends. You play in a softball league, typically classified as like a A, B, C, D, E league, depending on how skilled you are. That's competition. You play in an intramural basketball league, basic competition. Not everything is trying to be the best in the whole world, but the best that you can be as a person. Not everyone has insanely high skill potential. Okay, this is why games like Counter-Strike have such success, especially with their competitive scene. You can rank up anywhere from silver to global elite and find games amongst similar skilled players. Those who strive for more can work on their abilities and rank up with better performance, and that's basic matchmaking. The difference between a game like Counter-Strike and PUBG is that Counter-Strike is based on skill and has very little RNG. When you lose in Counter-Strike, it's either because your positioning was bad, your execution was bad, your aim was bad, or the other player was simply better than you. You can go back and analyze your gameplay and determine what you need to do differently and what you need to work on to improve. This applies to a certain extent with PUBG, but many times the end games of PUBG are determined by the luck of the circle. Here's an example. Phase 8, okay? Circle has a building in it, and outside there's a field with some cover, all right? One team's in that building. The other team is out in the field, all right? Phase 9 is revealed, and the circle pulls to the building. Due to the fact that most people have enough experience in this game now, the vast majority of the time, the team that's in the building is going to win the game fairly easily. The team in the team in the field has to hope that they have enough smokes, throw perfect utility to mask their approach, land some nutty shots to overcome the odds. Now, vice versa, okay, the circle shifts to the field. The team in the buildings have to leave their cover, okay, through known exit points, and will most likely meet the same fate as the previous circumstance, where the team in the field is just going to farm them. They have no chance most of the time. Okay. Now, this is not a good feeling. And when you go back and you look at your games and you see what you can do better, and then you realize that most of the time, if you lose, it's because the zone shifted away from you and you got screwed, or there's some other RNG feeling about it, it doesn't feel good. It feels bad. And all I'm saying is that revealing the final zone will impact how players play. It will change the meta. It will make the game more skill-based and more enticing for people to strive and be better and to try to apply more strategies. And this way, players will be able to see their progress, okay? And it make improvements, which is addicting in a video game, all right? Especially when they're having fun playing. And you'll want to play even more to get even better. And with a system like this to come full circle, more players would want to play. And the more players you have playing, then there can be MMR systems in place. Which, by the way, it already exists in PUBG. We just don't have enough players playing to actually implement it. So it's kind of funny. And therefore, then people can now play against other players of similar skill levels. So they don't feel overpowered. They don't feel like they're constantly running into pro players or streamers or people who are just insanely good at the game, right? Well, in addition to the RNG aspect of the game, there's other things that make the game not as fun as it once was. One of these in particular is the shifting of metas from pure gunplay to drive-bys and nade spamming. Conceptually, I don't have an issue with either of those topics. It's how they work within the game that complicates things. Players have gotten so good at the game that they can eliminate opponents from a moving vehicle with ease, right? Like you're doing the drive-by, you seat swap, and then you just smoke people from the vehicle. But is it really that difficult? Seat swapping became popular years ago, where if you hold your W key down and you're going, and then you push the seat swap keybind while holding W, the vehicle will still roll instead of coming to a complete stop. This allows the person in the car to unload on an opponent moving while they're moving at a certain speed, giving them a large advantage. Do you ever notice that when you shoot at someone in a car, while you're in the car, that you don't have to lead your shots? But when you're the guy that's sitting on the ground shooting at someone in a car, you have to lead your shots? The reason why you have to lead your shots is so that you have to accommodate for the speed of the car, aiming ahead of them so that the bullets will land when the vehicle gets there. It's a pretty basic idea, right? However, this same concept doesn't apply to the person in the car. So the person who's on the ground stationary that can't move because your spray will go wild if you're standing, right? We all know that. They're trying to lead their shots on the person in the car. They're being shot at by someone moving who doesn't have to lead their shots at all. They don't have to accommodate for the vehicle velocity that they're in. You just aim directly at the stationary target. PUBG needs to change this. Okay? When you're riding on the gondolas in Vikendi and you shoot from them, you can see you have to lead incredibly from those gondolas. You see your bullets when you shoot them. You have to lead incredible amounts. So why can't they apply that to cars on a lesser scale, right? You know, the same philosophy can be applied to gliders. except not only can they travel horizontally, they can travel on any axis. Okay? So, in my opinion, this is just a broken feature. It could definitely be changed for the better. You know, that's one of those things. The other shifting meta is nade spamming. Since players have gotten so good at the game, you know, it's a similar trend. it's a common theme among this speech. Not, you know, since people are so good at the game, not as many shots are needed to be taken before knocking an opponent or killing them. This has led to carrying less ammunition, all right? And then people just carry more grenades. Why? Because since there's a certain meta that's been established, right? The AUG is insane. Pretty much everyone runs the AUG, so you know you can get 5.5. So if you're running AUG Mini, you just run less ammo, because if you kill someone, you just take their ammo. No problem. Right? So the new strategy is you get a knock, and then you push up, and you throw upwards of 5 or 6 offensive utility to zero counterplay your opposition. And I'll tell you what, nothing makes you feel more outplayed than being knocked from behind by like a different team, right? And then having 6 grenades just thrown on you where you can't even do anything. Compounding issue to this is that PUBG added the nade timer to the UI, which it shows when a nade's going to explode when you start to cook it. It's that little, when you push R to pull the pin on the grenade and you see that timer ticking up. They didn't used to have that. I know it sounds hard, but you used to have to count the seconds in your head. You don't have to do that anymore. So now players can, with precision, right? So not only are they throwing the nades on you, they can with precision cook the nades to the perfect amount to where when they land, you can't even hear the nade land because it doesn't land. It just blows up right on top of you. So, in my opinion, limiting the utility, it may not eliminate the spamming of grenades overall, but players would have to decide what's more valuable. Okay, so I think the solution is limiting the utility. What's that number? I don't know, but I just think it needs to be limited. Is it 4? Right? So then players would have to decide, do I take 4 frag grenades? Which they could, but they'd have no smokes. 2 frags and 2 smokes. 1 frag, 2 smokes with 1 flash. 4 smokes. They'd have to decide. That's a solution, I think. The game itself, PUBG, okay, it's turned into a massive sweat fest. The majority of the casual community has left and moved on to other games. Whenever they try to come back, they get dumpstered and they have no answer. They can look back at their games to try to figure out what they could do differently, but it's confusing as hell to determine whether they got totally outplayed, screwed by being unlucky, or killed by a cheater. Who knows? The remaining casuals play as passive Peters or stationary strategists. They try their luck at camping to victory. Some may be afraid to make moves because it took them 20 minutes just to last that long and they don't want to blow it. Now, players can play however they want. That's totally fine. Okay? I'm just explaining why I believe some players do what they do. Regardless, everything that we've kind of described as far as how people are playing now, it's not a welcoming environment for new players. The hardcore sweat lords of the game will just say, get good, which I think is a bad attitude, drives off people that could potentially become new members of the community. PUBG has dumbed down aspects of the game to try and appeal to the new players with limb damage multipliers and instant one-shot DMRs by rewarding poor aim. But all these things do is make the better players even better. They'll also be capitalizing on the benefits of all those changes as well. All right. So what other changes have been made to the game in recent history? I got that question written down here. What other changes have been made to the game in recent history? Well, I'm going to tell you. Resources at PUBG are constantly being poured into skins. Skins, yes. Something that is frustrating for me, okay, is seeing the products that are continuously pumped into this game. And I'm always thinking, what else could be done to improve the game instead of releasing these skins? I understand that 92% of the player base is in Asia, and this caters to that market. But isn't it a vicious cycle? Right? Don't they think that the reason players are leaving our region is due to the fact that all they do is cater to the Asian region? How many more K-pop band collabs are we gonna get before we get something like a Mission Impossible, a 007, Fast and the Furious, Rambo, Terminator, or any type of collab popular in our region? Is this not something that could also be worked on simultaneously? A company that made a record $649 million last year can't do both? They can't do basic polling for regions to identify the maps we prefer to play? Somehow through their internal analytics, they've identified that all of NA players prefer Tago and Vikendi over Miramar. I mean, maybe that's so, but where's the data? Where is it? Is it because players consistently leave Rondo and settle on Tago or Vikendi? Where's the poll? I've never seen one. This doesn't even touch on other things that can be worked on, such as quality of life improvements. Okay? We're talking about resource allocation, right? How many times have you gone into a bag of, or like a box of an enemy player, and the items are just disappearing out of the box, right? Because your teammate's also in the box and they're taking items as well. And you accidentally misclick on a gun and you swap out your gun on accident, or you pick up like a damaged armor, or you fumble your whole inventory, right? How many times that happened? Wouldn't it be nice if those items that are in that box just gray out if someone takes it to make it unlootable because it's gone, but the list doesn't slide? Huh. Yeah, Apex has had that for years. Wouldn't it be nice if they looked into the servers for improvements to eliminate the desync that happens when everyone keeps dying behind walls? Wouldn't it be nice if random pixels or wooden fences in the game just didn't morph into concrete walls and bring your car to a complete halt and nearly kill you? You know, wouldn't it be nice if the game didn't hide how many real players are in your lobby to disguise the fact that it's full of bots? Well, I'm rambling now. You get my point. Resources are poured into the game in a fashion that, in my opinion, doesn't align with our region at all. Okay? It gets frustrating. So, this is a long video. I know. So let's finally touch on the last topic. How is this affecting me? Over the last year or so, these decisions that have been made in the game, it's made me feel a certain way about it. I mean, just look at everything that we've talked about. These topics get brought up on stream on a regular basis. I have been, and I always will be, a straight shooter and give you my true thoughts on everything. People come into the stream and they have questions about things regarding the game. You know, why do you not like SMGs? What's wrong with the Dragunov? What do you think about the revive system? Yada, 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 right? And these are all fair questions. And I don't want to ignore them or make them feel bad about asking these questions, so I always respond and give my honest opinion. So my honest opinions and responses are then met with opposition by people who have differing opinions, which is totally fine. But it turns into long, drawn-out rants about the state of the game. And this always happens when I'm playing. And sometimes these games make it to YouTube. And, even more so nowadays because these topics are getting brought up more frequently. And I consider my criticism of the game valid, while others consider it complaining. Either way, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Call me a complainer. I don't want the streams to be consumed by this conversation. And I don't want it to get hijacked on a daily basis where all we end up doing is talking about things wrong with the game. Believe me, rewatch this video to see that there's quite a bit wrong. So this has a negative impact on my mental health. You know, PUBG is a game that I used to love, that I would consider to have been, you know, once been one of the greatest games ever. And the game is now an abomination, and it doesn't remind me of the game that it once was. Okay. Now, I'm passionate about this game because I still think there is potential with it. However, it's disheartening because the direction the developers are taking the game is clearly aligned with a region that has vastly differing opinions from ours. And I don't want to be talking about the issues the game has while playing that said game, bringing upon a negative aura to the channel, to viewers who are here to be entertained and have fun. So, you know, even with all that has been said here, okay, I can still have fun playing a game that I dislike very much. I enjoy hanging out with you guys here in the community, okay? The Babarazzi, the Buds, and all the friends that I've made along the way as well. I enjoy people that I play with, hanging out with them, and that's what matters. So I want to be able to put out the best content that I can, that I know that I can. And constantly talking about the horrible state of the game is a major distraction from that. So this video will be what people are directed to when asked about the game. And I will no longer be commenting on it on stream. I may make some jokes here and there, you know, about stupid things that happen. But I'm no longer going to be expressing my opinion on why I think something's bad. It can all be found here in this video. I'm a competitive person by nature, okay? So it's going to take me some time and some to get used to all this. But I think this is going to be a really positive change that's going to bring more fun to the streams, and we can focus on other things, like being rock hard, baby. This game is based on luck. You can't win them all. All right, on to the next game. Let's have some fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this explains some things. I'm constantly striving to do better, and this is just a self-reflection and realization that I need to do just that. Hope to see you all soon. Later, buds!
The game's gone.
The game's gone.
The game's gone.
The game's gone.
Game's gone.
Where is it?
Where is it? Where's it?
Game's gone.
Game's gone.
It was in our hands.
But then it disappeared.
That in itself just shows how far gone the game has gone.
The game's gone. So
Just trying to figure out where...
the game's gone.
The
game's gone.
Happened, it's gone.
And the game's gone. Where has it gone?
Game is gone. Game is absolutely gone.
But where? Where though? Where's it gone?
Where's it gone, Merce?
I don't know.
Where's it gone, Cammy?
I don't know, Jeff.
Mick?
It's gone to Blackburn.
Why Blackburn?